Hey, it's Vass here from Aussie RC Playground and welcome to another unboxing. Today we're going to be looking at the ARRMA Notorious 6S BLX. Now this is one of ARRMA's latest vehicles on the market, and essentially what this is an outcast with a different body. However, it does have a very unique feature that kind of sets itself apart from some of the other vehicles in ARRMA's fleet, namely the real steel look. So what ARRMA have done here is they've painted the body on the outside as well as the inside, and as the body kind of takes its tumbles and gets scratched up, this paint will sort of start to peel off or scratch off. And underneath you've got like a silvery sort of paintwork that kind of gives you the effect that you're actually scratching up a real metal car. So it gives you that real steel look, and that's a really cool feature about this particular car. So I've been very fortunate to get my hands on one and really test it out, and no doubt if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you know what these cars are all about. You know how tough they are. One of my more popular videos recently has been the ARRMA Outcast torture video, or torture test, where I took it out to these big BMX jumps and I was doing triple backflips and really putting the truck through its paces, and a lot of people seem to enjoy that. So no doubt I'll probably do something similar with this one, and you guys will get to see a kind of a repeat of that, because this truck has had some improvement since my first Outcast, yeah, I'll take you through some of that as we go through this unboxing. But before we go any further, let's get rid of that box because we don't need that here. And that almost bounced back and hit me in the foot, so I'll kick that over there. All right, so the truck that I have is in fact the blue one. I kind of secretly was hoping to get the black one, but they've sent me out the blue one, so I'm not going to complain too much. I will say that this kind of like satin sort of matte finish has a very unique look to it, and it does look fantastic. It really brings out the shape of the truck. The light kind of shimmers a little bit on this color, so although I was kind of hoping for the black, I'm kind of glad I got the blue, to be honest. Now, radio is the Tactic TTX 300, which has been a radio that ARRMA have been using now for the last 2 or 3 years, somewhere around there. And of course, it is a great radio. It runs on 4 blades, no collapsible antennas. I've covered that radio countless times in the past. I'm not going to waste too much with it. In here you get the usual goodies with ARRMA. You got the XT90 connectors, you get a little toolkit, you get the high-speed pinion gear, there's some spare body posts, there's a speed chart, the very comprehensive instruction manual. So make sure you hold on to all this stuff if you need to. If you want me to go through that in more detail, or you want to know more about that in more detail, check out the video description. I'll have a playlist there with all the unboxings that I've done in the past from ARRMA, and that kind of covers pretty much all of that part of the thing, of the unboxing, quite extensively in a lot of those videos, so I'm not going to waste too much time on that. All right, so let's talk about this guy here a little bit. So we have essentially an Outcast with a different body. Now I do want to sort of touch on this just a little bit, just very briefly, because when this truck was first released, I'm part of a few Facebook groups, and there was a lot of people that were actually quite disappointed, and some were even actually upset at ARRMA for releasing a car that essentially is the same car as the existing Outcast that you see over there, and they've just put a different body on it. And I think the reason for that is because ARRMA may have hyped up that release a little bit too much, or a little bit too well, in fact, and people were anticipating a new vehicle, something that was either going to be bigger, that was going to be different from what they see already today, and that was not the case. When the car came out, the full video was released, everybody sort of went, well, that's just an Outcast with a different body. Now, people were upset and are kind of accusing ARRMA of copying other companies that have done this sort of thing. But the fact of the matter is that ARRMA have been doing this for quite a long time. You only have to look at things, trucks like the Nero platform, for example. Some of the 10 scale vehicles have been transformed into different cars by swapping out a few parts, where essentially we're using the exact same chassis and just putting a different body on it, and you call it something else. Even the 1/8 scale platform, the Creighton and Typhon, Creighton and Talion on the Series 1 and Series 2 cars, they were essentially the same car with just slightly different looks, but they shared the same chassis, same platform, same A-arms, same everything. They just changed out the body, removed the roll cage, then changed the wheels, and that was about it. Here they didn't even go through the extent of changing the wheels. I probably would have liked to have seen different wheels on this, to be honest, just for a point of difference, not for any other reason. I think the tyres could have stayed the same, just the wheels would have been nice to have something different. But they've kept everything the same and really just only changed the body. So the fact that people were upset about this, I can understand that, I suppose, from the point of, ARRMA kind of led us to believe that it was something else, and it really wasn't. Fair enough. I think ARRMA did a really good job at promoting this and building up the hype before it was released. But to be upset that they just changed out the body, that's unfair, because every other company in the RC industry has done this for decades. ARRMA themselves have done this and nobody really got upset about that, and now everyone's just sort of kicked up a stink about it. So I don't quite understand the logic there. There's a lot of emotion. I guess on a positive note, it's nice to see that there's a lot of people that are actually passionate about this brand, that they care enough to voice their opinion and give ARRMA feedback. And I think ARRMA did put out an apology statement about the release of this truck and how it was sort of like a little, maybe the hype was built up a bit too much. So good on them for doing that and acknowledging that, I suppose, to an extent. Now, moving on to the truck itself. Let's talk about this body in more detail. Because one of the things that I do want to do as well at the end of this video is kind of talk about ARRMA in general and where the brand stands here in Australia. I can't really speak too much for the rest of the world. I can sort of only give my assumption or opinion based on what I've heard from social media and other reports. But I think here in Australia, I think a lot of people want to know what's happening with ARRMA and all of that sort of thing. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. So the body. As per usual, they have these little sort of protective stickers around the body post holes and everything to kind of stop the paint from rubbing off on the body post. So I think that's something that ARRMA will always continue doing, which is really nice to see. You know, there's bolts and everything sort of holding the cage in place, which is obviously very good. You've got these little rubber things here that are kind of holding onto your body clips so you don't lose them. That's been something that's been going on for a few years now. And of course the Outcast and now Notorious, these guys are famous for having these little holes on the top of the roll cage here where you can put little lighter flints, and then if you roll the truck upside down on like your asphalt or tarmac or concrete, whatever, and it just scrapes on the ground, you get like sparks flying out, which I think is a really cool feature. And of course they have these bolts on here on top of the cage, and that's just to stop it from wearing down. So that's a little bit of protection, and the flints will just rub on you know, your uneven surface and so forth. The body itself, very thicker than your usual standard sort of body, so it feels very much the same as the original Outcast body, which is nice that they haven't really changed from that. And of course you got the real steel look under here, so it has this sort of matte finish, which it just looks absolutely fantastic. I mean, I'll be really curious to see how good the black one looks. But I saw photos of the blue one and I was very keen on the black, and then seeing this one up close, the photos don't really do this one justice. It to the naked eye, it just looks absolutely fantastic. Really good job on these bodies. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Without a doubt in my mind, ARRMA currently have the best looking bodies on any RC on the market today. They just are killing it with the styling and the paintwork and the color schemes and everything. They're doing a fantastic job. So whoever is doing their paintwork and their artwork and the body styling choices over at ARRMA HQ, I would love to shake their hand one day, because whoever they are, they should be wearing a cape. These guys are heroes. They do a very good job. I'm very impressed. Good on them. I really hope that this gets back to them and they actually hear this, because really they've done a fantastic job. So the truck itself, nothing new here. Move along. Everything is as you'd expect. Now, of course, ARRMA has been taken over by Horizon Hobby. The last time I unboxed an ARRMA, it was owned by Hobbyco. It's now owned by Horizon Hobby. And I do wonder what some of the changes are going to be moving forward in the future. Namely, are we still going to be getting XT90 connectors? Are we still going to be seeing Tactic radios? Are they going to switch out the Spectrum? I hope that they stay with the Tactic, I really do. Because the STX2 radios, which are included with a lot of the ready-to-run vehicles that come with some of the Horizon Hobby cars, I'm not a big fan of those radios. They do have some cool features with them, yes. They just feel a lot cheaper than those. And I really hope they don't do that. I hope they stick with Tactic. That's my personal opinion. Unless they bring out a whole new radio that has a nicer feel, and it doesn't feel so cheap, I think that would be a good move. But then you do have to question, is that going to increase prices? You know, why would you not just stick with the Tactic in the first place? So I'm curious to know about that. The XT90 connectors, I hope they don't go with the EC5s. I find EC5s a little bit trickier to solder, and they're also very difficult to sort of pull apart and unsolder as well. So I would prefer that they stick with the XT90s personally, especially considering that you have an existing client base now where so many people that own these cars already have their batteries with XT90s, or have made the switch from, you know, Dean's or whatever other plug they were using, and they've gone with the XT90s now, and all of a sudden, you know, Horizon goes, oh no, we're going to go EC5s, and they switch them out, and I think a lot of people are going to be upset, and it's like, oh damn, you know, I got to change again. So I would hope that they would not change anything here. I was hoping that at some point, especially with the two-wheel drive offerings from ARRMA that exist, like your Furies and so forth, that they would actually implement an AVC type of technology, which no doubt might come in into the future. But that never really happened from the Hobbyco side of things. I have no doubt that probably in the future we might see some of these cars come out with AVC. I've said this before, and I'll say it again, AVC is kind of pointless on four-wheel drive vehicles. Yes, it does help with novice hobbyists, but if you're buying something like this for a novice, you're doing it wrong. These cars are very powerful, they're very fast. You do need a certain type of skill. AVC is just going to get in the way of something like this. I would prefer AVC in two-wheel drive vehicles because I've used that. I've currently got it in my ARRMA Fury. It's out of shot, you won't see it, but not my ARRMA Fury, my ARRMA Raider XL. I've got an AVC receiver in that, and I've got videos of it on my channel as well, and it works the best. That is where I find AVC to be at its best application. On a four-wheel drive vehicle, if Horizon or anybody is watching, don't waste your time. Like, there's no much point in putting it in something like this. I hope you don't do it. So in here we have the latest and greatest of updates to the ARRMA 1/8 scale lineup at the moment. We have the latest battery tray, which has the twin Velcro setup, also has this little bit here that sort of this front plate that raises up. There are some really cool batteries that you can use with this. Namely, there are some Gens Ace packs out there that I'm currently getting my hands on at the moment that will work in here perfectly, both 4S and 6S. So that's not a problem. You have the 4mm shock shafts in these cars. This particular one does come with the aluminium shock caps, and you have the little plastic protectors on top here. I will be giving you some close-ups of everything as I talk to you about this, so I'm not always bringing the car up to the camera. You have the webbing in the diff bulkheads, both front and rear. That's their latest, one of their latest updates. You have a new sort of locking mechanism for the sway bars, where before they used a slightly different bracket for that. You have a 2mm little button head screw that holds the pin out on the A-arm to lock the shock into place. So previously it was a 1.5mm little grub screw, which always kind of stripped or didn't quite work too well. You always get dirt in there. It was very difficult to sort of access. Now it makes life a lot easier doing it this way. You have the latest beefed up steering knuckles on this as well. Of course, you've got your 4 or 5mm drive shafts. I'll have to measure these. I can't remember what these are. I think they're 5mm. And of course, you've got your standard 150 amp kind of Hobbywing rebranded ESC. You got your 2050 kV 4074 brushless motor, and of course there is your typical steering servo up the front, which I am yet to have a problem with. I must be the only guy on the planet that doesn't have a problem with these steering servos. I've come across many people on Facebook and on my personal channel here on YouTube who have commented saying that they have nothing but problems with these steering servos. I can't falter them. I mean, yeah, they could be faster, they could be stronger, everything could be better, but to falter them and say that they are no good, that's incorrect in my opinion. You can see the lineup of cars I have up there. I have not had one of these stock servos fail. Yes, I may upgrade them in the future if I want to do something particular with the car that I require a little bit better performance out of a steering servo, but I'm yet to have one fail, and I've had, I think, probably close to 24 of these cars now. This is not my first car, so I don't know what to say. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. Of course, you've got the kind of latest HD, I think they call it a HD wing mount. I've seen a lot of people break wing mounts on these cars. I'm yet to break one. I don't know how you break them. Maybe you're deliberately landing on the wing to try and break it, to complain about it. But if you try and land on all fours, usually it avoids that problem, just a heads up. And if you're breaking the wing constantly, maybe you should look at how you're using the car. Why is it breaking? As opposed to blaming it. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm doing something wrong. The shock bodies on these particular cars, the latest ones, have thread all the way to the bottom of the body. They stop about 10 mil from the bottom of the shock body. Why is this being mentioned? You might think, what's that got to do with the price of fish? Well, my friend, in the first version of these cars, I think even in the Series 2, they did not have thread all the way to the bottom of the shock bodies. And a lot of people were having issues with the cars sagging and not being able to lift the bodies up or the chassis up off the ground because you couldn't wind these shock collars all the way down or down far enough that you would have enough spring tension to keep the chassis off the ground. So now ARRMA have addressed that issue. They've also given us slightly stiffer springs on these cars, which I think is a really good thing. One of the things that I'm really curious about this particular car is how the diff tune is done on these cars. I wonder if they've made any changes from my original Outcast. The Outcast, when I first got it, I felt was a little bit soft in the diff tune. They did technically make it more aggressive than the Creighton and the Italian and so forth, but I always felt that it needed that little bit more in the center diff. Being a stunt truck, I wanted it to be more aggressive, and in the end, I think I ended up putting 500 weight 500 weight diff oil in the center diff. I think I may have left the front and rear standard. I don't recall changing that. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I've done an RC pit stop and you've seen me change the diff oils on the front and rear, please let me know, because I cannot remember. I've done a lot of videos and it was a long time ago, so forgive me. So I do remember changing the center diff to 500,000 weight, and that seemed to really liven the truck up, and I could do wheelies a lot easier, I could do standing backflips a lot, I could do rolling backflips a lot easier. So that was kind of the performance that I was expecting out of these trucks out of the box, and that's why I made those changes. I'm curious to see how this one's going to perform straight out of the box. So I think I'm going to leave this one here, but I do want to sort of talk a little bit about ARRMA in general, and how their kind of situation is here in this country. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, Hobbyco kind of folded, and Horizon Hobby took over ARRMA. They also took over Axial and a couple of other brands. And ARRMA kind of disappeared from Australia for a few months. They've been absent for a little while. Whilst we had ARRMA, the distributor that was here and dealing with this particular brand, if I'm going to be bluntly honest, they were doing a horrible job with the brand. There was always shortage of stock. We could never get parts, and we could never have enough stock. Now, for those of you who don't know, I work at a hobby shop here in Melbourne, in Australia, and I got to sort of see a little bit of behind the scenes of what goes on in running a hobby store, and how people perceive the hobby, I guess, in general, and what sort of happens. I got to see a different angle, essentially. That's what I'm trying to say. And it was very interesting to me to see why people are sometimes hesitant about jumping onto these newer brands. Is because distributors like the one that was dealing with ARRMA at the time just didn't get it. They didn't quite understand. They weren't in touch with what's actually going on in the world, what's going on social media, here on YouTube, on Facebook, on forums, what people are saying about brands like ARRMA, like whatever other brand you want to name, insert name brand here, right? So distributors really need to have their finger on the pulse when it comes to these sort of things, so that they have a feel and they have an understanding, and they can talk to their retailers and who in turn talk to their customers, and have an understanding of what they need to bring into the country, how they should be pushing certain brands or holding back on certain others. And I understand that there's sometimes a bit of a hype thing, so I can understand a little bit of hesitation, but if you are constantly active in these forums, in these realms of social media, you should be able to stay in touch with what it is you need to bring into the country. Unfortunately, this distributor didn't do a very good job at that, and didn't quite understand what they were selling. So as the cars and parts were coming in, they were just as quickly being sold out, and there wasn't a constant flow of product being brought into the country, which I think in turn was hindering the growth of the brand in the country. And coincidentally, the same company, same distributor that was in charge of this brand, they were also in charge of its #1 rival brand, which I will never name on the channel here again. So that brand obviously took preference or took priority over a brand such as ARRMA. And of course, when the takeover of Horizon Hobby sort of took place, or when Horizon Hobby took ownership of this brand, for sort of phrasing that a little bit better, I was really looking forward to who was going to be the distributor for ARRMA here in the country. And I had a sort of a hunch of who it was going to be, because that particular distributor was doing an excellent job with all the Horizon Hobby products at the time. And I knew that if they got their hands on this, that they could do something very, very good with it. No doubt it has taken a long time, for ARRMA to come back into Australia. There have been a lot of upset customers in the process. There have been a lot of people that perhaps have even lost faith in the brand. Some may be hesitant about coming back to it because of this long absence that has happened. But this is just time. And I hope that I'm being right about this, that ARRMA going forward with the new distributor under the new ownership of Horizon Hobby will be stronger and better than ever before. I have very good faith in that, because I believe in the umbrella company that is Horizon Hobby, and I have very good belief in the capabilities of the people that are now in charge of it here in the country, and they no doubt will do an excellent job, far better than the previous distributor. So for those of you out there who are in this country, who are watching this and have stayed for me this long and will stay and watch this video for this long, I appreciate you staying with me. I hope that you can sort of look past the past, and sort of look forward to what is coming from ARRMA. They are certainly not going away. They are continuously bringing out new products and trying to better themselves with every update and upgrade of their cars that they release. And no doubt they will continue to do that here in the country as long as we have the right people in charge of the brand. And I really hope that the right people that matter are watching this, the distributors and Horizon and ARRMA, and that they really get inspired to build the brand here and make it better and stronger than ever before. So with that, I'm going to leave this one here. I thank you all very much for watching. If you stuck around this long, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new. And as always, check out the video description. I'll have plenty of links in there for you guys to check out. You'll be watching videos for hours, I'm sure, because I have a lot of playlists and video links and things like that for you to check out down in the video description. I've also got links to my social media, such as Facebook, Instagram, and of course, if you want to, help out and support the channel so that I can continue to bring you fresher products that I'm not even associated with, check out Patreon as well, and support the channel that way. Once again, I thank you all very much for watching, and I'll be speaking to you all next time.